Hey everybody, I'm Desirée Dunbar, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here today with a beautiful dance artist who also does acting and modeling and dance teaching, and her name is Jaezila Crittenden. Hi Jaezila.
Hello, Desiree.
How are you?
I'm really well. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm very happy to be here.
And of course, you are one of my past and favorite students ever. So I love staying in touch and being able to follow what you do and just to really enjoy all the successes that I see you having along the way. And I think that some of our viewers would really just benefit a lot and be inspired to hear what your path has been from graduating from a dance program and then moving into what you're doing now. So could you talk just a little bit about what you did after you graduated? Because I know it can be a scary time for people if they don't have gigs nailed down or exact plans, if they just sort of left it a bit open. Some people have jobs to go to, some people don't. But could you just tell us a little bit about what you did right after school?
Oh, well, interestingly enough, as soon as I finished school, I did have a couple contracts lined up, and I quit them, which is interesting. But I really needed a break. It was like school is so wonderful and fast and can be overwhelming, and I was just like, wow, I finished this. I just need a moment to catch up with myself. So I quit everything, and I even took a bit of a break from dancing, just because I wanted to check in with my relationship with myself and with dance. Mm-hmm. So I quit everything. I went back home to Saskatchewan from Vancouver for a little bit. I did a little traveling, a little auditioning, doing a little auditioning that was different from what I was used to. So I was used to a lot of the contemporary world, but instead I was auditioning for Disney and wandering around New York and just doing anything, like trying to open up my eyes again, to just take a little bit of a step outside of the contemporary world and just sort of decide, like, okay, is this still what I really want? I have all this education now, all this training. Like, where do I truly want to apply it? So that's what I did immediately after school.
Yeah, that's really brave. I think that takes so much courage to just give yourself space and time to essentially soul search and decide what is authentic.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like it was kind of terrifying, but it was definitely probably the best thing I ever did for myself. And the biggest thing that came out of it for me during that time was that I was able to really discover who I was outside of just being a dancer. Even though dance is such a huge part of myself, it was really important to be able to say, like, this is who I am, instead of my entire life saying, I'm a dancer. No, I'm also myself too. So it was really interesting to be able to examine all of the things that make me who I am, but be able to discover who I am without being dependent on those things, aka the dancer part. So, yeah.
I love that, and that's such good advice for other people, including myself, because if we wrap up our own identities with our body and our physicality and how we're moving and expressing ourselves in the studio, I think that we leave part of ourselves behind too. And then when we do take a break from the dancing or do slow that down like I am, so I'm transitioning out of performing as much and doing more of this kind of thing, which I love doing as well. But if we're too focused on just the physical and how our body is, I think that we do lose part of ourselves, and it can be traumatizing when we start to let that go. So I love that sense of balance that you created for yourself, just really finding that sense of self alongside the dance. It's not that you stopped dancing completely, it was just that you're doing both and trying to find a balance of both, which is so nice.
Yes, absolutely. It was very important at that time in my life, and really, really glad I did that. Yeah, so I think it's like always really important, and like never be afraid to just take a moment to step back and just breathe.
Yeah. And then, so after you did those other auditions, what did you do after that?
I think the first job I did right out of school was actually acting. And so I trained as a dancer, and that's like, of course, initially what I was really planning to do, but acting just kept happening for me. So I did a lot of drama in high school, and that was about it. And then there was a few opportunities in student films in universities. But the first thing I did when I was right out of school and was back in Saskatchewan for that little bit of time, I saw an audition. I went. Of course, it's like auditioning going. It can be really scary, and you just never know how it goes. So after the audition happened, I was like, yeah, whatever. And I think like a few weeks later, I actually ran into the director on the street, and he's like, I was literally going to call you today, like you got the role. So I was like, wow. So yeah, the first thing I did right out of university and taking that break was this film. And then, funny enough, the makeup artist on that film, she does a lot of kind of modeling placements within Saskatchewan. She works on a lot of really great faces, and she knows people. And so out of the casting director on this film and the makeup artist, they came together, and I did a photo shoot for them as well. So out of that one audition, I started acting and then fell back into modeling as well. So it all just sort of happened.
That's amazing. And I know that you say, like, funnily enough, but I think really that is, I mean, in my beliefs, that the universe is kind of, it sort of points us in a certain direction, and we want to be open to listening to that, because that, I mean, my teachers call that the or better of this situation, right? So it's like, oh, we really want to get a dance job or an acting job, but we also stay open to what the or better might be, because we can't even really our minds just don't have the capacity to understand what the or better will be. And so doors start to go open. But we have to, I think, also be ready to go through those doors and have that sense of courage and adventure to do that, which is exactly what you did with going to the audition, getting the job, and then leading into something else. You were really up for the adventure. You weren't just sticking to what you thought it should be. So I just think that's so great.
Yeah, I think too, when I look back on the audition processes and these different jobs and things that I've been able to do over the years, that the ones that I've enjoyed the most and then I feel just maybe the most proud about all just happen naturally. Like I just met a makeup artist and a casting director, and it led to this, which led to that, and it's none of it was ever stressful. None of it was ever, well, maybe a little bit scary, but it was more fun. And that's, I think maybe like what you're talking about, the or better part, it's scary because it's different, but you just know that it's right. So you just trust the process and you go with it. So, like, coming out of school and trying to navigate my way and figuring out what was right for me, those moments when things just happen naturally were the best, and still to this day are the best and projects that I'm most proud of.
That's amazing. And you are obviously so good at going with the flow. I'm sure it wasn't easy all the time, but do you have any advice for people watching right now about going with the flow and how you do that? Because it's so easy to get stuck in our mind and be like, oh, I need to plan this, especially if we're like type A personality. We love to goal set and stick with our goals and make plans. How do you do that, but also find that balance of going with the flow and being open to those other doors?
Well, it's definitely a learning process because, like you said, dancers, we're goal setters, we want to achieve. So, of course, I was doing lots of additions and processing things that, like, really, like, I did not care about. Maybe even hated. But it was just, I thought I had to do it because I want to do these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so the learning process of that push and not really enjoying it and not enjoying the process of going to these additions to these projects that you don't really believe in. But then compared to the experience of these other projects that I could just allow my heart to sit into, and that would happen so easy, there was like it's just totally two different stories. And it just got to the point where I was like, the additions that are just painful to go through and I'm just fretting over, and even like literally I would get hives sometimes. I would get so stressed about these additions. They're just not worth it. So not worth it. It's, like, life's too short. Like, this isn't obviously working for me. Even my body's reacting to these things. I'm going to listen to that. And so those experiences that I didn't really enjoy compared to the ones that I really enjoyed really allowed me to learn and just choose that this is the way I want to live my life, by just letting things flow and things happen and just really trusting that. And it's worked for me. It's really worked for me. So that's my best advice, is to really take what you've learned from your experiences and decide how you want to live. Maybe
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think for me, what I feel is, if I just frame it like, I don't want to suffer, so I'm not willing to suffer. So then if our body is telling us, it's like, oh, well, my body's sore, or the hives, reactions to things like through our body, because we're dancers, our bodies often will tell us first what is happening. I used to get bladder infections all the time, and I would just really just do my best to ignore it. But, when I started going to a Chinese doctor and really starting to understand the somatic connection, like what feelings and emotions that I'm repressing and suppressing are actually causing that, and getting to the root of it, which really had a lot to do with just like repressed anger and learning how to express anger as a woman, which I was never really allowed to as a child. So it's like, really, I just love the wisdom of my body and how it will alert me to situations. So as soon as I start to notice something, I do my best. Not always perfect at it, but I try to get to it so that I'm not suffering, so that I don't leave it too long, because there's, yes, the physical pain sensation, but I know there's something else lurking under there that really needs to get looked at too. So it's just really like, I'm not willing to suffer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally can relate to that.
Yeah. And then what about your physical routine? We're kind of talking more spiritually and philosophically now, but in terms of like, how do you stay in shape? What do you do?
Okay. How do we stay in shape? Funny enough, okay, so when I was in university, and as dancers know, like, you train so hard. You're training so hard, you're dancing technique, shows, conditioning, everything. On top of that, while I was in school, I was going to the gym and like running between classes and lifting weights. Like, I was a bit of a nut when I look back. And now I think at this point in my life, I'm the happiest I've ever been with my body, and it's in the best shape it's ever been. But there's a huge difference to like my younger dance self and myself now, is that all of this training and extra conditioning and things I was doing while going to the gym, I was doing because from this place of I wasn't good enough, and even I would say self-hate, because as a dancer we're striving to achieve, we're always striving, we're always trying to get better. So I just felt that I had to do everything. So everything like physically I possibly could to get in better shape. Whereas now, I only do things for my body and conditioning if it's out of a place of self-love. So, I don't do that much anymore. Like, I do. I really am physical. But compared to what I was doing when I was just a fitness junkie, huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah, I don't know. For me, self-love. I know we sound like hippies right now, but no, seriously, like it's what works for me. And I still do have moments. Let's say if I'm like, oh, something feels a little squishy on my body, I immediately have to stop. I'm like, whoa, okay, what self is talking right now? And just remember, it's like that young dancer self I had that was always pushing and striving too much. And then checking in, sometimes I get carried away if I'm working out now, and just like I have to force myself to stop and like, hey, why are you doing this to yourself right now? Like, is this like just for your health? Or is it because you felt a little squishy and you're mad at yourself? So that old dancer push yourself self still sneaks in, but I'm able to stop now and kind of calm everything down and recognize what's happening, because I know that does not work for me. My body does not like it when I'm pushing myself like that.
Yeah.
So.
And there's two things in that which I love what you're saying, which is, one is the awareness part, like the stepping back to take a look and just like, whoa, take a breath here and really like just understand what the motivation is behind what we're doing. And is the motivation to feel good and balanced and whole? Like, are we moving towards wholeness? Or are we depleting ourselves and then possibly even not feeling good and suffering, right? So that's just such a simple way to think about it. Like, are we moving into wholeness or are we depleting ourselves? So I love that you're doing that. It makes so much sense. And you look fabulous. So I think it's totally possible to feel, like you're saying, feel awesome in your body, feel good about it, and also just look fabulous too. Like, it's all possible. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And then the second part is that sort of younger dancer that kind of comes back once in a while. I do agree with that. And I also think that there's just a lot of ideas and thoughts out there about, one, like being a woman and what we're supposed to look like and be like. And then also in the dance industry, if you're at all involved in the dance industry and modeling, that there's a lot of ideas out there how we should look and be as well. So it's not just the inner voice. It's like there's all these outer voices as well. And we need to somehow continue to manifest our truth and purpose amongst all that. Yeah.
I think, especially with the modeling I do, like every like director, photographer within that, like everyone's different in how they style things, and there's so many times that I'll see the finished product of a shoot I've done, and I'm like, oh god, that doesn't even look like me. Like, so it's so important for me with my students, because students, like, especially the little ones, when they find out that I model or act, they just get the big stars in their eyes, you know? They're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Because I think lots of them dream of that. But I always sit them down and I'm like, hey, wait, but we got to talk about something. Look at this picture and look at my face. Like, nice. I totally love my face, but there's still huge differences. And I just remind them that everything's airbrushed. I was in makeup for an hour and a half before they took that picture. Yeah. There's lights everywhere. And I just always remind them that, because it's so fun to do those things, but it's impossible to look that way just walking down the street. And it's so important to remember that.
And as an educator, we have so much power, right? So I love that you are doing that, because I mean, that's so cool that you get to say that to the little ones, and then they have that in the back of their mind as they're dreaming and as they're looking through, you know, a dance magazine or a Cosmopolitan magazine. It's like, well, yeah, this is the reality of it. It's so great to have that awareness at a young age. That's amazing. Yeah. And like you said, it's also really fun, right? I mean, I don't know about the modeling side of it, but just in dance, doing photo shoots, it's really like doing a kind of performance too. And you're called upon to be your best in like the flicker of an eye. And that is a huge challenge. And it's also really fun to like step up to the plate. It's like, ooh, how can I create magic here in like 1 little second when that shutter goes off? It's pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny that you are bringing up like the bringing your best in your art form in like just like that 1 little second. I found with dance, it's like we worked and trained and rehearsed for like such a long condensed period of time, and then we do the show for however long the run is, and then that's it. And it's kind of, whoa, like you put all that work in, and then all of a sudden it's gone. You just put that out into the universe, and then it's gone. Whereas I learned when I started acting that it's like if I screwed up, they're like, cut, do it again. I was like, hey,
wait a minute.
Yeah, so I was like, I think I like this, because you're still performing, but the pressure of having all that rehearsal time and then doing it maybe once, and that's the only chance you're ever going to get, and what if something happens? Like, that's totally, it just diminished for me. So I'm like, oh, if I screw up, okay, we'll just take this shot over and over again until we get it right. And with film or photography, that's definitely like a thing too, because they're going to capture this image and it's going to be on this paper forever. But you learn over time like what looks good, like because it's all camera angles and things. You learn how to hold your face. You learn the certain angles of your body which are going to look best, because sometimes you could just be standing there, but with the lighting and the angles, it's going to make you look 5 times bigger than you actually are, or different things like that. So you learn. So you can still have that pressure of like the one-time performance thing dance can bring, but I guess it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I totally get it. It makes a lot of sense. And I think, not saying that this is true for you, but for a lot of people, a lot of students that I see, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with performance too. And, you know, even people like Baryshnikov talked about how much stage fright he would have, like being nervous for days before, and it never went away his entire career. I mean, he's probably still performing here and there and still has that. So that's a lot of stress on the nervous system, and that's definitely something to work with and consider. I think there are ways to work with that too, to develop skills so that we don't stress our body and our adrenals and our mind so much. I think it is a kind of mind game. And it's so interesting watching the Olympics right now and just seeing how those athletes prepare before an event and the mindfulness that is required. And I'm sure some of them are so nervous. And it's how do we work with those nerves? It really is a big, big problem, I think, in the performing arts. Yeah. So
it's funny how different days it's when it comes to performance, how it's like one day I can feel like it's just terrifying to be out on the stage and get so nervous, and then other days it's just like, I got this, and you just can go out there. And I don't know why that is, really.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors. One is like how much rehearsal have we had? Like, do you feel like really prepared and you're like, you could pretty much just go out there and your body would do it on its own? Who's in the audience and how that impacts like your energy and how you feel, like how much pressure that puts on, and then how much pressure you're putting on yourself at that point in time. Like if you're coming from a place of lack and not much self-acceptance, it's never going to feel good really because you're trying to fill up from the outside. But I think if we step on the stage and we're feeling the self-love that you're talking about from a really authentic place, it's like there's a fullness there and we can't wait to share with the audience what we are, but then also like what's coming through us, through the artistic director, through the choreographer, through the universe, God, whatever, however you want to say that. There's so much. It's like we become a channel for energy. So if there's a lot of love, like that inside well is full, then there might be some nerves there, but I don't think it's going to be as much as if we're coming from a depleted, lacking place.
Absolutely. I find too, when I really have a respect for the art that I'm doing as well, like I deeply respect it, that the fear mind mumbo jumbo that can make me shaky on stage, it's just like that respect just like beats it out. It's just like, no, like there is no place for that in my mind, and I can just shoo it away because it's like my love for the piece and just the message that I'm trying to put out there to the audience, like from the directors or if it's my own creation, that takes over. I think that's like such a great exhilarating feeling when it comes to art, and like it's just some of the like best moments in like why we're dancers and why we do art. It's like when you can reach that place.
I love that.
Finding that meaningfulness in what we do and how that can just like fill the space instead of the shaky stuff that makes us so scared sometimes.
And that is such a good nervousness. It's like when you're really engaged, but there's also a risk involved too. Like if it's your own work, then there's a feeling like there is risk. Like I'm putting this thing out there. I don't know what the response is going to be. And even if you're performing other people's work too. But then the result, like when you accomplish that, separate from the audience's response, I think there's so much fulfillment in that moment. And I see it with these Olympic athletes too. It's like they finish their event, and if they feel good about their performance, it's just that is the most satisfied in a real way that anyone will ever feel. Like, what else is there, really? I mean, that is true fulfillment, true satisfaction. It's not coming from the outside. It's like a real sense of accomplishment. Yeah, so I just think it's so amazing what you're doing, and that you're really just stepping up to the plate in so many areas, in so many ways, from an internal place of that self-love, self-understanding, soul-searching place, and then also in your career to rise up to different challenges that are presenting themselves to you, essentially. It's so amazing. And you're also going back to school, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Do you want to just say a couple things about that? Because I think that's so exciting, too, that we're constantly learning. It doesn't stop just because you finished your BFA. It doesn't mean like, oh, okay, I'm done that. I'm done with the learning thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So this past year, I started going back to university again and studying psychology with the hopes to get into grad school to be a psychologist.
Nice.
And for counseling, I feel that it's like something that's always been in me, and I just want the education to back that now. And I also really hope to work with artists, because I found as a dancer, and because like we work with our bodies so much that like things are constantly being shaken to the surface, Or that's what I found.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and I just wish that I had a counselor in my life at that time that could really help and guide me through that.
Yes.
So I really intend and dream that at the end of this next step in my education, that I'll be able to do that for dancers across North America.
I love that. That's amazing. So wonderful. Yeah, because I agree. I love that shaken up image, because it's like our bodies and emotions are so connected, and then there's all these emotions coming up, and teachers don't have time, or they don't have the skills in a dance class to take the time out for each person to check in with what emotions are coming up. But I do think, and the way that I teach is to offer skills to work with the energy behind the emotions, clearing those blocks that are arising to create more spaciousness. Because ultimately we need to be these like beautiful open vessels for communication to come through. But if we're blocked by insecurities and worries and interference, then we just can't do our job properly. No. So the more people that are doing what we're doing, I just think the better. Just to totally support you in what you're doing. It's wonderful.
Right back at you.
So do you have any final words of wisdom? I know you've already given so many. I'm not even sure what else you could say. It's so great. But is there any closing thing that you'd like to say to people watching, the younger dancers who are just even starting a training program, and they're noticing these things maybe coming up for themselves? Like, is there something maybe they can do if the teacher's not providing guidance, or in their program there's no counselor? What do you recommend?
Go talk to Desiree.
Or Jaezila. You can email us.
Joking, but not joking. Take the time. Meditation is an amazing thing. Lots of times people think meditation is just to control your thoughts, but really a lot of it is checking in with the different parts of your body, and you'll be so amazed when you dive into yourself what you're holding in your body. So key as a dancer. You will learn so much about yourself. And along with doing your meditation, just be brave when it comes to just being genuine to yourself. Just trust yourself. Do what you want to do. Don't try to fit yourself into what your professors want, what your school wants, what the dance community, what it appears that it wants. Just do your thing, because really, like, everyone has just marvelous things in them, and it's unique. Everything in you is unique, and you can just bring it and let it shine, and just do it. Just do it. Yeah. Like, if I'm going to talk to my younger self, just be brave. Yeah, don't hold back.
Yeah, and I think you have been very brave.
Thank you.
In one of my classes with my kids, I teach all ages, and the one group of girls who are training to be classical ballerinas, we've been doing this kind of more like life coaching kind of work, like built into the class, which they just is like, there's such a need for it. Like, they're just loving it. Like, it's like kind of like having like a cool aunt that they can talk to, right? About stuff maybe they can't talk to their parents or teacher about. But one of the things that they say, which I love, is that it's weird not to be weird. Like, it's weird not to be weird. Like, we all, don't worry if you feel weird because of what you want to do, or like what's like naturally you. That's perfect. It's weird not to be weird.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to just be okay with that weirdness too.
Yeah.
Be okay with it.
Yeah. And it's easier said than done. I know we're saying all this stuff about self-love and self-acceptance, and as though it's super easy, but I know you and I have both been down the path, and for me, I don't feel like I will ever, maybe I will get there one day, but it's a constant unfolding of even what self-love means. And I think it's just like a beautiful blossom. Like, there's new layers showing up all the time to discover. So
Absolutely, absolutely. It's, you know, like anything is work, but like work's not a bad thing. It's just to like be happy or be sad. It really is just a choice, and it's your choice to go down whatever path you want to go down. And there's always going to be the ups and downs, no matter what. Like that's an absolute given.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like my life definitely hasn't always been sunshine and lollipops. There's been a lot of, you know, times I would say even like darkness and questioning who I am, but I had no other options. It's just I have to go through it. It's just me, and I'm gonna always keep going. And yeah, that's just another thing too. Like always keep going. You can totally rest in that. Absolutely, just like take a breather. But you just know and trust yourself that you're just gonna keep going.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you have those little victories along the way, where it's like, ooh, you notice like, ooh, I'm a little bit stronger when I'm making these choices or whatever it might be, that it's easier to keep going too. So even if it's feeling really hard right now, know that once you celebrate a victory, it's just going to be like, that's going to stay with you and it will spur you on to continue on the journey. Yeah. Well, it's so nice catching up with you. Such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, and I hope to catch up with you again soon.
Absolutely.
Okay, take care.